Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, only here one side of the table. Maybe you're just still filling up your stomach with all this nice food over that side. So, how many of you took lunch today on the next hall? Raise of hand. How many of you took the time to test this delicacy called cauliflower? Right? All right, cauliflower in Hindi, it means gobi. So, I'm Gobi. Obviously, I'm not a cauliflower, but it's named after me. All right? So let me take you through some of the very interesting aspect called blockchain 3.0. Is it hype? Is it real? And what it takes for you as an individual or a company to be part of this. If you look at the journey to singularity, it consists of many different components. Big data, IoT, blockchain, as well as artificial intelligence. They are interdependent to one another. They are not working on a silo base because everything is dependent of each other. For example, big data. All your information that we have today, for example, whatever you put on Facebook, whatever you put on Google Drive, or whatever that you can digitalize into the form of tokens can be considered as big data pool. And with this information, you have Internet of Things. We are going beyond mobile phone communication. You know, mobile phone was the first step to get connected to the network, but then now we're moving into connecting devices like cars, refrigerators, air condition, even your mug in the future where you're able to determine what's the content of the information that you have before you put into your stomach. For example, you go to fruit juice store, you'll be able to get this information in terms of what sort of sugar content you have inside, potassium, magnesium, and so on and so forth. So, and you can really see it for yourself rather than relying completely on the fruit juice vendor. And then you have artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is where companies like Google and many different companies out there looking into how they can create another human being intelligently, minus the logics, or minus the soul, minus the emotions. It's purely logics. And how they can create into that. And there's a lot of efforts that are being put into this. And in order to have a very trustable, immutable, and transparent system, you then have to tie it with blockchain. But of course, I'm not going to talk about big data, AI, and IoT today. That's for another day. The world changed in 2009 when Bitcoin was introduced to us. And those who joined in the beginning of the wagon know for the fact that Bitcoin was created for a specific reason, and that is peer-to-peer digital transactions, which allows you and I to transact with one another without the need to have intermediaries, without the need to have third parties, at a fraction of the cost. And you can be in Timbuktu and I can be in outer space. As long as you have a smartphone and connected to the internet, we are able to transact this token. And the underlying technology for Bitcoin is called the blockchain. Now think of blockchain like in the form of accounting. Those accountants, they keep financial transactions. And these financial transactions are kept in a ledger, in their own accounting ledger, following their own standard formats, and so on and so forth. And blockchain is similar to that. The only difference is it has slightly different structure in the sense that all transactions are kept in a block. So there are X amount of transactions that you can keep in the block, and the next block will have the previous block's cryptographically signatured hash rate in order to avoid any sort of hacking to take place. Now, someone asked me this question: can a blockchain be hacked? Now, it depends on which blockchain you look at. But if you look at Bitcoin's blockchain, Bitcoin blockchain has been many attempts for hacking, but has never been hacked in the past. Economically, it's just impossible. Let me give you an analogy on that. If you want to hack a Bitcoin blockchain today, you would need economically about $9 billion or more of systems to hack it. That's equal to having a dedicated nuclear plant at the back of your house, server farms in hectares, and maybe, and only maybe, you're able to hack the blockchain. Now, when it comes to generations of blockchain, and I'm sure throughout these 2 days of the event, you've come across many terminology about first generation blockchain, second generation blockchain, third generation blockchain, and now some folks are even talking about fourth generation blockchain. So what are these? The first generation blockchain is based on Bitcoin. And of course, Bitcoin has its limitations, as some would say, but the creators of Bitcoin created Bitcoin for a very specific purpose. Then came about second generation blockchain, which talks about smart contract properties, whereby you're able to write your so-called terms and conditions in a code, and you can do settlements automatically. And this is where most of the ICOs, in fact, more than 80% of ICOs are raised on the Ethereum blockchain. It has its pros and cons. It has certain limitations as well, and also it has some benefits too. Now, third generation blockchain talks about the next Bitcoin, or better than Bitcoin, the next Ethereum killer, better than Ethereum. Essentially what they're aiming at is to become either equal to Visa or better than Visa. Now, Visa has, until today, Visa was created like 25 years ago or so, Visa has transactions of up to about 7,500 transactions per second. They can scale it up, they can scale it down, depending on the network load. Now, 7,500 transactions per second is considered small in the eyes of many of us, but it's in fact enough to cater the needs and demand for the world population today. And of course, they can scale it up as well. Now, blockchain 3.0 talks about 10,000 transactions per second, 100,000 transactions per second, better confirmation times, better blocks, so on and so forth. If you break down this blockchain itself, there are 4 components to this. Now, probably most of you have heard of public blockchain. And this is where a lot of companies, a lot of ICOs are raising funds on the public blockchain. Public blockchain here could be either using Ethereum blockchain, could be using a NAM blockchain, or they'll have specific blockchains developed from raising the ICOs. For example, you have Tron, you have Cardano, you have R-Chain. So these are a number of blockchains that are being developed to cater the needs to become a truly public blockchain 3.0. But there are 3 other components too. There are private blockchain, there are semi-private blockchain, and there are also consortium blockchains. Now, private blockchain segment itself is huge because public blockchain cannot handle the needs and demands placed by private enterprises, banks, government agencies, and government bodies, because they do not want to talk about cryptocurrencies, they do not want to talk about engaging public blockchain. They wanted to have it on private. And this private sector demands the use of private blockchain by harnessing the benefit of blockchain. And there are many use cases which I'm personally working with many banks and many government agencies, including here in Malaysia, to address the needs that they want to have. Now, you've also heard along the way about different asset classes, and predominantly it's either cryptocurrency or utility tokens. Now, according to Blockchain Research Institute, which is headed by Dan Tapscott and Alex Tapscott, his son, very established research institute that researches on blockchain, came about with 7 different types of crypto asset tokens. Right? You have cryptocurrencies to begin with, then you have platform, you have utility tokens, you have natural assets tokens, security tokens, crypto collectibles like CryptoKitties, crypto fiat currencies, and stable coins. So there are 7 different asset classes. And in fact, 90% of all tokens today is categorized under the utility tokens. Handful on cryptocurrencies, and moving forward, more and more tokens will be moving towards the security token section. So, to summarize this, blockchain 3.0 is real. It's here to stay. But the only question here is, how do you identify a true project from the scams? It's very important, especially when you get into the public domain. When you get into the public blockchain domain, there are many scams out there. You have to find the right ingredient and right method, or as we call it in the crypto world, do your own due diligence before investing into this crypto projects or blockchain projects. It's very, very important. And now, I've only scratched the surface of the iceberg. There are more to it. There are more to it. 10 minutes is just not enough for me to explain everything. I'm just trying to summarize as much as I can. Come and talk to me after this. If you have some exciting project, especially on the private blockchain, come and talk to me, because I'm engaging a lot with governments and government agencies, banks, and also private enterprises working on the private blockchain, addressing their needs. All right? I'd like to end this presentation by saying the following things. Knowledge is power. Whatever you've learned here today and yesterday, knowledge is power. But it's only useful if you use it correctly. Thank you.